The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. This is a good day. How are you?
I'm really good.
This is a beautiful morning.
Yeah.
We did not see each other last Saturday, so I'm very much looking forward to spending this Saturday morning with you and reading Sweetie's letters.
Yep, and we're actually picking up the story about a month and a half from where we left off. The last episode was episode 55, The Honeymoon. If you missed that episode, that's a fun one to listen to. But she writes that in August of 1947, and here we are at the end of September of 1947 when Sweetie provides some new updates on things for her family. One of these updates is something her family, Sweetie herself, and all of us have been waiting for, that she's been talking about for a number of letters. Not going to spoil it, but for those who have been listening to the podcast, you're in for a treat for this update here. For those individuals who are new to listening to the podcast, welcome to the Love Sweetie podcast. If you could please like, share, and subscribe on the YouTube channel, we'd very much appreciate that. If you're listening on our audio channels, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the rest, if you could leave us a review, we appreciate that. And then, of course, you'll want to check out our website at www.lovesweetiepodcast.com for all of the photos. There's some photos that are going to be updated onto the website with relation to this episode. So we hope everybody checks that out. But without further ado, Jamie, I think we're just going to jump into the first of two big letters that we have for today's episode. 37 South Love Lane, Norwood, Pennsylvania, September 29th, 1947. Dear Mama, Daddy, Jean, Florence, sister, and family, and Frank, and family. I have just now gotten this typewriter repaired, and so I shall try it out, and at the same time get this long overdue letter written. It seems a long time since Jean was here, and I wish that Mama had been able to come with her. It seems like a long winter to start into without seeing you all again, and when Maida writes that she is getting ready for their vacation, it seems worse still. We have all been more or less sick. Another reason why I couldn't seek to get to writing a letter in longhand. Jean knows that Louis has had a contrary and persistent cough that we have worried about for some time. I watched it closely, taking his temperature at varying times through the day, and not just a few days after he left. We took him down to the Naval Hospital to have a checkup and a possible solution for the cough. He is still a little overweight for his height. His ears were fine, as was his throat, and as an explanation, the doctor said, "If you were in a drier climate, this probably would not have lasted more than a week, but with this changeable weather, you'll have to expect this." He gave us some cough medicine that I've had great difficulty getting him to take, and we got him another bottle of Leovitum, cod liver oil and evening dress, free from the pharmacy. The cough is just about the same, and I guess getting cold in the night doesn't help that either. I get up 4 or 5 times in the night, and he is always uncovered and cold. I'll have to figure out some method for keeping him warm. Other than that, he is fine. He is talking more, putting a few sentences together, and will make a game attempt to say any word suggested to him, with amusing results too. He plays outdoors a lot, but the big kids are rough, and they often hit or slap, so I spend most of my time at beating a path to the window or door to protect my interests. Lou came home from work one night about a week and a half ago saying he didn't feel very well. He was sick at his stomach and vomited several times in the night, but he got up and went to work anyway, and by late afternoon the next day, with very little to eat, he was feeling pretty well again. He remembered some bad-colored pork served to them at the mess hall and blamed it on that. I, like little Louis, have had a cold nearly all summer, too. It gets better and then worse. Better, then worse. In this instance, there could be no ribbon adorning the sulfa bottle because I've taken it religiously, along with aspirin, nose oil, and I've used one of those Benzedrine inhalers so much that when Louis nears me snorting and sniffing, he'll go and get it and bring it to me and say, "Sniff." I haven't had such nose congestion as this since I was in high school, and neither nose oil or the sniffer gives me any relief. I'm going to call the Naval Hospital and ask if they'll give me a course of cold shots. Lou says he doesn't, they'll do it. I'm sure I don't know how I could go into the winter in this condition. I wanted to whip into my fall house cleaning early. I'm not going to have so much to do since I painted this summer, and get it all over and done before my sewing machine comes, so I could sit down and get acquainted with it, and then finally jump into all the sewing I've laid by these many years. Besides, Christmas is coming, and I don't see how I can buy many things, and what I can't make, I guess we won't send. You know, I've waited nearly 16 months for that sewing machine. I'm to expect delivery next week, and believe me, I can hardly wait. I'm entitled to 11 weeks sewing lessons too, one afternoon a week, but they have such a backlog of buyers that I'm going to have to wait a few months before they can enroll me. By then, I'll have learned for myself. I'll want to get everything I'm entitled to for my money, and late or not. I think I'll take advantage of it. Mama and Daddy. I haven't heard from Mama for a long time. Daddy's letters tell what you've been doing, the farm's progress, etc. But I'd like a letter from you telling me how you are and what you've been doing. I know how hard it is to muster the effort and find time to sit down and concentrate on writing, but I haven't heard from you directly for a long time. Are you well? And feeling okay? Has Daddy had a recurrence of his bad cough? Have you been working at the farm putting out more rabbit feelers on the trees? Are you going to Indiana at all this summer? Did I tell you that I've heard from Betty Corey Davis in Long Branch, New Jersey? She's having a baby in February. Her dad's job is over out in California. He is at loose ends now, and as she said, heavens knows what he'll do now. Though I'll not be surprised if she writes and says they're coming east or else to Texas to live. For Louis's second birthday Saturday, I worked buttonholes in the navy blues, and we dressed him all up, just like Daddy, and went to meet Elizabeth's train in from California. She spent 3 weeks out there. Everybody had to stop and say something to him, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. He sure looks cute in it. I'm going to send some pictures. The sailor suit is not with this bunch. Will be soon. They'll go first to Jean, since they are of her trip here, and she can show them to Sister's family, to you, and then to Frank and Maida. You can have this bunch, Jean. We'll have some more made for ourselves. I'll send Mama some of the sailor suit as soon as I can. I have 2 buttonholes to work in the other little blue suit, pants and jacket to match, and then I'll take some pictures of that too.
Aw, like so. Oh, I can just picture him in his little itty bitty sailor suit, just being so cute. And of course, you have to stop and say something when they're adorable like that. But just like his daddy, man, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and I will say, she said she's going to send the pictures soon. She doesn't send them yet. She doesn't have them yet, so we don't have them yet either. But we will. We are going to see that picture of that sailor suit. It was one of the prized pictures for sure of little Louis looking like Big Lou, and father and son wearing sailor suits both. It's really adorable. But one thing, I did want to note the disclaimer for this episode. She's mentioning a lot of medicines and things here because they've been sick, as she said. Just the common sense reminder, I shouldn't have to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is 80 years ago. Please don't go trying to DIY with old medicines of the past. She's listening to her doctors, and everybody should be listening to their doctors in the present day, 2025 and on. So, yeah, just getting that out of the way. Her typewriter needed repairing. Well, its typewriter needed repairing.
Yeah, that's it. That's typewriter. I don't know if it's its typewriter anymore.
I don't think that's getting this typewriter.
It's not getting the typewriter back. No, she's too busy gallivanting in California for 3 weeks doing whatever. She did it for 3 weeks in California.
She's doing dit things out in California. Yeah, dit things. That's what she's doing. So, whatever that is.
Whatever dit things are.
Yeah, she didn't care. It's fine.
But so we got a little quick update on Betty Corey Davis, which just, after all the stuff that she put her through, the Natumwa, it's so fun now. She's going to have her own little baby.
Yep.
With the major. How sweet is that?
Yep.
But she does, so we have to talk about the sewing machine.
Yep.
Because 16 months.
16 months. She's been waiting for the sewing machine. She still doesn't have it in this letter.
Yeah, she still doesn't have it.
And now she's got to wait for classes.
Goodness. But yeah, this so she had a lot of, it's Louis' second birthday has come and gone now. They're getting pictures. And I know she said that she hasn't heard from her mama. Yeah. And this is actually something that she really never really kind of talked too much about her mom, but lately that in the letters, I've seen and noticed that she's definitely like, Mom, I wish you were here. Mom, I wish I could talk to you. Mom, I missed you. Like, she's definitely, I don't know, maybe having a baby makes her realize, like,
yeah,
so,
she's definitely bringing up her mother a lot more in the letters, more frequently.
Oh, much more frequently. And when she's like, Daddy's letters, I'm like, I'd like to see a Chester letter.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
It's been a long time since we've had a Chester letter. I'm kind of sad. So I'm sure we'll see. I mean, I'll find out with the rest of you guys when we hear from him next time.
Yeah, he's been a bit distracted. He is puttering. So he's been very busy with puttering.
I just want to point out that I didn't say it, sir. I just want to point that out that she.
I'll say it. Yeah, he's too distracted to write. He's puttering. Don't worry. We'll catch up with Chester in not too far in the future. So.
But she is, so there is indication that she will be getting the sewing machine.
Thank goodness. Yeah. With that, continuing on, let's see what happens. Frank, the little camera, baby brownie that you bought for me there in Chicago has served me well until now, and the pictures have been good and clear, and I've enjoyed it immensely. But I loaned it to Elizabeth for her California trip, and she found that the roller upper has given out. The metal catch that fits into the roller is made of cheap white metal. I won't know what it is called, and has been chewed off. She took it to a camera shop out there to see if they'd fix it for her, and he told her that thousands of people had found it happened to their cameras too. Now they are made of better and more durable metal, but unless I can get this fixed, the camera is ruined. Should I send it in to the factory and see if they'll replace it? Maida's letter and card for the baby arrived this week. I was very pleased with the picture you sent along. That was taken at Lacona when Louis was a year old, just as we were ready to leave to drive back here. It is the only one of its kind. There are also pictures of Louis with his first birthday cake that we've seen proofs of only. You ask if I'd like to have some. I sure would. As many as I can get a hold of, and of as many kinds as you have. I'd also like to have some of Susie and F. We've never had a picture of F, so it has also been a long time since we've had any of Susie. Write and tell us of your vacation plans and of the children and their new tricks. We love to hear of them. Florence, you're as bad as I am about writing. I haven't heard from you since you went on your trip down south, and I'd like to hear about your kids too. There's lots to tell, though I know it is a hard job to write to as many people as want letters from you. Are you doing much sewing for the kids? Have you gotten Bob's grave marker yet? You have a typewriter, don't you? Well, do as I do and make carbons. Come on now. Sister, I've certainly missed your nice letters and frequent cards, and since I've had to visualize the changes in your children, especially little me too, I find that all I can remember is when she was little. She said, ta-ta-da-da. She must be walking and saying lots of things now that I've never heard about. I thought about M.A. and Chris on Labor Day, when the kids went by, decked out in heel-blistering new shoes and carrying pencils and tablets. Were they pleased with the pencil boxes that Aunt Jane got them in New York? Here they call them school companions instead of pencil boxes. We had a nice cake for Louis's second birthday. I used the new cake decorator Aunt Jean brought to me when she came to visit, and you've never seen a more gaudy cake than that was. I made pink and blue icing, and that was the prettiest cake ever. Louis was pleased as could be. He has heard the Breakfast Club every morning when they sing Happy Birthday. He always sings along with them, in his own way, of course. And I just wondered if he finally hitched up the thought of a cake with the song. Maybe he'll do like KM and sing happy birthday every time he sees a fire of any kind. Does baby M play outside while the kids are gone to school? I guess she's too young for that. Does she like Grandpa and Grandma? Jean, I'm very grateful for your many letters and chat. I sure did miss you after you left and wished that you could have stayed longer. When you wrote that you hadn't gone to the fair after all, I was fit to be tied. I knew that the fling you had with the young friend was worthwhile, though, and that you probably enjoyed yourself. Maybe that is justification. I'm very much interested in that friendship. Don't mind saying I had my nose out of joint when you talked it over with Mrs. Graham, and I missed it. Lou tried to compound the car, but for some reason or other, it just didn't work very well, so he got some airplane lacquer, dumped some white into it to make it a lighter blue less easily detected as airplane paint, and yesterday he repainted it. It is a much nicer color with a much finer gloss and better finish. We are much more pleased with it now than we were, and I'm sure you would be too. I'm sending you the pictures we took while you were here. There were 2 left unprinted, one of the New York skyline and one of the Statue of Liberty taken from the ferry. I'll have to get them printed. Do you remember if I sent the pictures we took on our Canada trip for everybody to see? I can't remember, and on chance, I think I'll send them along with these. You can pass them around and send them back, but the ones taken while you were here, you can keep. I hear Louis talking, and I must go get him up. I'm going to make a trip to the Pike first thing this morning to get these letters off to you. Now, Mama, Daddy, Jean, Florence, Frank, and Maida, and sisters, you all sit down and write to us, and then I'll have something a little more interesting to write about. Love to all of you. Sweetie, Lou, and Louis. I forgot to say, I got the bong out for the birthday. Lou's mother gave him a sterling silver fork and spoon set engraved and very pretty. Elizabeth brought him a little suit from California, and we tried to get him a tricycle, but he didn't seem to be quite big enough to reach the pedals. So we decided to wait a while to get that, and we got him a few little toys instead. Wind-up toys, etc. More later.
That was a very nice, long, lovely letter.
Yeah. And it's neat to hear the full recap of Louis's second birthday here. I love that she calls out the cake. And I think I can sort of just visualize the classic birthday cake with the blue and the pink icing. She calls it gaudy. Yeah, it was probably just very sugary.
I'm sure.
Very sparkly, very happy. But I'm sure Louis, I'm sure Lou was delighted too. But I'm sure Louis was even more so.
I love how she says this. And we say this too. I actually refer to Jean as Aunt Jean because she's your Aunt Jean. And she says, I used the new cake decorator Aunt Jean brought me when she came to visit. That's because when she was talking to little Louis, she's like, this is Aunt Jean.
Yep.
You know, so I just thought that was so sweet, like that little, because she definitely misses her family.
Oh, yes, she does.
And she definitely, like, it was so, that's another thing Jean came to visit her.
Oh, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, and we don't know anything about that visit, unfortunately, but we know that she was there, and she was there for his birthday.
I know there's a photo that survives for this, so I'm trying to locate it, but there is a photo of the 3 of them in New York, Jean, Lou, and Sweetie. So I'm trying to locate that photo, and when I do, I'll make sure at whatever point that's located that's shown on the screen. I do recall it as a really nice photo. But they did go to New York City, so we know that much, and she mentions that in the letter, which is really important. Also, at the end of the previous letter, right at the end of the honeymoon letter at the end, there was that section where she was having a feud with sister.
Yes.
Seems like the feud's over.
Yeah, that's nice, and it didn't take that long.
No, sister got the message. So
all right, well, I guess that she figured it out. Like, that's good. That's good. That is a nice thing to hear.
But moving on to the second letter. Now, this is the bigger of the 2 letters for this episode. We're going to fast forward again. We're going to go through an entire month, and we're going to kick off November 1947. 37 South Love Lane, Norwood, Pennsylvania, November 5th, 1947. Dear Mama, Jean, Florence, sister et al., and Frank's family. I've sure hit the jackpot as far as letters are concerned, and so I shall try now to answer them all at once, as I usually do. We are much improved as far as the colds go. The bottle of sulfa arrived broken, Daddy, and of course empty of any sulfa, but we were getting better than anyway. My asthma didn't last too long. Louis has a little cold left, cough, but nothing like he had. Big Lou spent 2 or 3 days in sick bay with a temperature and severe cough before we've managed to get rid of the germ. At Louis's worst, I made a trip with him to the Naval Hospital for a little free reassurance, and what a time we had there. He seemed to remember the place, for I could feel him freeze as we walked down the corridor to the pediatric clinic. We had to wait a little bit, though we had an appointment, and hearing other children cry or object to the examination didn't help a bit. When we went into the examining room that is nicely decorated with animals on the walls, toys are provided as well as little furniture, and proceeded to undress him, he started screaming so that the doctor could hardly conduct an examination on the other side of the room. He is the same Southern doctor with the patients of Job and children of his own, and he tried to be kind, and finally he said, "Now look here, Louis, if you don't stop your crying and be a good boy, I'm going to make your mama go outside and wait out there, and I'll do this examination alone." Well, that did it. He let out a shriek that you could almost hear in Des Moines, and Dr. Roby ousted me and conducted the examination through brute force, I guess. I could hear Louis screaming, "Mama, Mama, Mama." I wasn't at all proud of him then. The doctor said it was due to the changeable weather and dampness of this area. I'm to wait until this cough can clear up some, and then we're to take him in to have an X-ray and TB test. He seems to be okay otherwise, and as he explained, the tests are just for safety, not due to suspicion or fright. He is still overweight, and he is sleeping at nights better than he ever has, though last night he did wake up and cry, evidently a bad dream. I usually try to comfort him, often by taking him into our bed with us to let him relax and start to sleep, but too often he decided he must wake Daddy and talk to him, and I can't blame Lou for not being too responsive at 3:30, which usually leads to disturbance, so last night I got into Louis's crib and laid with him until he was ready to go back to sleep. He always, "Ah, Mama," and loves to show his appreciation, which usually leads to giggling, and even I have to be stern to get back to sleep at all. He is surely changing and developing fast, and I sure do get a kick out of him. I'd sure be lost without him. For example, he came to me one day saying, "Di apu, di apu." I tried to find out what he was saying, but got only the same, "Di apu." The very next day, at the same time of day, he came to me saying the same thing, and here picture the light bulb flashing over my head. The radio was giving forth with one of its musical masterpieces in singing commercials, and Louis had come to me singing with the chorus, "Dreen shampoo." We were riding to the commissary not too long ago and saw huge columns of smoke where they were burning off the dumps, and Louis started chanting, "Mope, mope, mope, acet." Smoke, smoke, smoke. That cigarette. Purely voluntary and uncoached. He is conscious of people commenting on his sailor suit and his resemblance to the big sailor, Daddy, and rather than smile at them, he will look just over their ear and make weird faces to keep from breaking out in a smile. He seems to have most success by just making an O with his mouth, which in itself looks pretty funny, and when people laugh, he finally does too. He does it at home too, though. He goes and gets Daddy's sailor hat and his neckerchief and puts them on. The neckerchief hangs to the floor, and he has to hold it out in front of him to keep from tripping, and he comes in expecting us to say, "Hello, Swabby." I tried ignoring him, and he was quite miffed with me. If I looked up, he made the same silly face to keep from laughing, and then we both giggled. He loves shoes, and will clop clop all over the house wearing somebody's too big shoes, and he expects a comment, or he gets sore about it. He doesn't try to get strangers to look at him, or he doesn't try to show off when we go into a store. So I guess it isn't too bad. Is it?
He's so cute.
Yep.
I have memories of like when my boy was young,
Yeah.
and and he had trouble like talking too. So sometimes I think that I really honestly think it's like a boy thing. They just have a little trouble getting the words out, but it's fine now. But let's talk a little bit about the commercials, the jingles, having such an impact on the little one. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I remember commercials like from when I was a kid, and that kind of stuff gets so like they really like you can see the programming.
Yeah, the perfect
Propaganda, I don't know.
propaganda for a product. Yeah, absolutely.
For that cigarette, I don't know.
I don't think we hear jingles these days as much as we did back when we were kids, and they heard it all the time because that was the
Mhm.
thing, was the radio jingle. You're trying to sell the product, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, like, just I don't know. It's not a thing. Every now and then I hear a jingle, and it's kind of exciting to hear it. The same thing's happened with credits for television shows. Like, now it's usually just like the title of the show, and that's it. If you get a song, it's like, oh my gosh, we got like a
Oh,
whole
yeah. We don't have time for
song.
that stuff now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we just skip it. We just skip
mhm,
intro, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, when my little girl was young and we took a little trip and we were visiting people,
mhm,
she knew all of the she couldn't read, but she knew all of the logos. She's like, that's
mhm,
McDonald's, that's Starbucks.
yep, yep,
So like those, yeah. So they're absorbing. Like when they're that age, they're little sponges.
yeah,
They just
yeah,
take it all in. But it's good that everybody's doing better.
mhm.
And oh man, I bet he just had flashbacks when he went to that hospital. Poor
Yep,
little Lewis.
it was
Oh,
too much for him, right?
that
Mhm,
broke my heart. But
yeah,
I'm glad that he's doing better. He's not
mhm,
getting as sick, and he's obviously a little character.
yeah. Oh, he's gonna keep becoming more of a character as time goes on. He loves his books, though he is hard on them and abuses them if he isn't watched. I have saved the battered ones, and when I can't take time to sit down and read the nice books, I give him the battered ones to look at by himself. He knows he shouldn't tear them, and often brings a piece of a torn page and hands it to me, saying, "Tisk, tisk," as though, well, if you'd read to me, I wouldn't tear that up. He can't understand why I won't stop the dishes or stop in the middle of a washing to go sit down and read. I often have to, too. When he sits down with them by himself, he would rather look at them upside down. I often say, "Turn the book around, Lewis, and look at the horse this way," and he sits and looks at the horse right side up, and just as soon as I go do something else, he turns it upside down again. What does that mean? He recognizes things very easily upside down. I can't understand it. He had a very bad habit of just tossing his dishes off the high chair tray when he was finished with the food or with the dish. As a result, I'm destitute for dishes. But the other day, I dropped that very nice ashtray that Mamma liked into the sink as I washed it, and glass flew everywhere with a frightful clatter. I heard Lewis gasp and then come running to see what happened. He looked very gravely at the sad remains, and then very solemnly said, "Mamma, bad boy." I was fit to be tied and cussing like mad under my breath, but that ended it. I just had to laugh at him. And there went my lesson. I guess you see there's something with my typewriter again. I'm getting 2 letters on 1 space. Those are not all mistakes on my part. As Frank says, he does a wonderful job of entertaining as well as keeping me busy. I did get my sewing machine that I waited 16 months to get, and on the afternoon it was delivered and sat in the middle of the living room floor. I went and got some Kleenex to wipe off the dust from the delivery truck, and as I dusted, I said, "Oh, isn't it nice?" It was christened Mama's Nice, and often I found him dusting it for me, using half a box of Kleenex as a dusting rag. It is no longer Mama's Nice, but Mama's Sheen sewing machine, shortened to the Lewis vocabulary. He loves to see wheels go round, and must be practically on my shoulder while I'm sewing, pushing this lever or turning on and off the little light. The wheel is covered, so he can't get hurt on it, unless he'd get his finger under the needle, or else get burned on the light bulb, and it does get hot, but I try to be careful just the same. And I've threatened him with dire punishment if he bangs up the cabinet at all, so he stays fairly clear of it, unless I'm there too. I sure do love the sewing machine. It is a Sears Kenmore, as you know, in a beautiful walnut cabinet. I objected at first to the knee lever, just because I was used to Mamma's foot treadle, and now that I'm used to the knee lever, I have no objection at all, except that it took too long to get it, as I threatened to do long ago. I've started my Christmas presents, homemade, and what a job I've waded into. I might as well warn you not to expect too much. It is going to be rather difficult for me to guess proper sizes, or to guess needs or even desires. I'll have to use my own judgment and guess about the kids. But as for the adults, well, we may just have to send you Christmas cards with best wishes and love. Everything costs too much, even food, and I don't know what any plans are yet for the holidays. And they aren't too long off either.
She finally got the sewing machine, and we got such a beautiful description of it.
We did.
And we kind of, I I've seen the old ones where you have the foot pedal that you kind of like do. So I've never seen one with the knee lever. So this will be interesting.
Yeah, the knee lever. So it is very different. It's like, it literally is as exactly as it sounds. It's not a thick lever. It's probably only about 2 inches, and it dips underneath the machine. And so you have to press up with your knee to get it to go. That's essentially how it works. Now, I do have some photos of the sewing machine. This is one item, and it would be very easy over time for people to upgrade sewing machines, go into newer models. Sweetie never did. So one of the biggest treasures of the family collection is the sewing machine. We never let it go, and it remains here with me in my apartment. It's actually in my bedroom. So I have a picture of it from when we actually renovated. So I'm like really happy things are clean.
Yeah.
But so we can see actually the whole cabinet here. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen so people can see what she's talking about with this walnut cabinet. All right. So this is the sewing machine. This is the cabinet she's talking about.
Nice.
Beautiful size. You know, it's only about 3 feet long, and it's completely hidden inside. You would think this is just an end table, but you can see the little cord sticking out at the bottom. And that is the key. The sewing machine is in working order. It definitely still runs. So things were built to last back then in the 40s. And these open up, and I'm going to do a short video about this. So if people looking forward to some future content, I'm going to run it. We'll get it going. But inside on the one wall is like the little spools. There's a hanging spot, and there's some drawers and things in the cabinet. So that's what it looks like from the outside. And of course, these other lovely items are actually from my other grandmother before she passed. Going into the actual machine itself, when you open up the top, it opens up and reveals the sewing machine and pulls it up. I've got a nice portrait mode photo here, close up of the machine itself. There we go.
So, okay.
People can see the Kenmore logo here. You know, so we know it's absolutely the Sears Kenmore that she was talking about. You know, it was pretty emotional when I went to open this up and take this photo, because I saw that spool there. I didn't put it there. Let me be very clear. And you know, it was just something where I was like, the last time this was probably really handled, because it's been closed up for so many years. She passed away in 2009. She wasn't really able to sew probably since probably 2005, maybe 4 or 5 or something like that. I'm like, the last time that thread was put on the top was when she was working on something, probably about 20 years ago. And it could have been something that she was making for myself or my sister. So it was kind of emotional being like, it's kind of left on the last piece that she was working on for it. But to know that this journey through all the years, it's almost 80 years old, it's still in working order. I mean, this is a steady sewing machine. And she used it all her life. So it's a beautiful.
Thank you, Allison, for sharing that.
Yeah. So I was more emotional than I thought I'd be. I was like, oh, we'll just demo the sewing machine. And I'm just like, was she working on just something that she sent me at college or something there? What was that last piece that had that thread going? And I think it's appropriate to pick up wherever she left off, but she put that there. So it's a little energy. It's, yeah. Anyway, I'm getting emotional. Everybody, I think, gets it, but these pictures are going to be on the website. I do have one other shot of it just from another angle so that you can see the sewing machine here from the side view, because some people might be crafters and they want to see more angles of the 40s sewing machine. So I want to make sure that I honor that for those that do enjoy, working items from the 40s. And here's the other angle of it. So you get kind of a more from below. You can see the Kenmore a little brighter.
And then there's the little lever underneath where I'm sure that Lewis was playing with.
Right. He's trying to move them. Yeah.
Beautiful piece.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it, it's kind of graduated to being from a sewing machine to it's a time capsule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really thank you. I mean, again, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Allison.
So special item. It was one thing that when we renovated, we were moving out a lot of furniture, and it was one piece that we would just never let go of. So, yep.
Well, yeah. Look how long it took to get.
Yeah.
16
months. Yeah.
16 months.
Well, actually, that's really funny because it took 16 months. So they were out by then. It took 16 months. If we count that in, I guess it is 80 years, essentially. If we add in her wait time.
Yes, yeah, you do.
From 47, it was like 45. She was hoping to get this thing by like the Christmas of that year. 45, 46. And yeah, almost 80 years. So great machine. Survived the test of time. I guess I'll take the letters separately as I got them and try to answer them now, starting with Mama. I love to hear from Daddy just as often as he can write to me. But a letter from Mama is something special and something to write home about. It was just like a chat, and how I did love it. The news about your garden, flowers, etc. made me feel a little sad. We haven't had such nice flowers here either this year, aside from the late zinnias and marigolds. I haven't seen a dahlia this year, and people here don't seem to bother with things like snapdragons, hollyhocks, or 4 o'clocks. I did see some zinnias, and there was a lot of Rose of Sharon, and one man near here goes in for hybrid roses that makes the walk to the pike pleasant in one spot along the way, but people don't seem to put too much importance on flowers. Too many florists nearby, eager to take money, if anybody cares that much for flowers. Gardens didn't do much here either, not like they did last year, at least here in our project. I sure was happy to hear of Florence and her 2 young'uns, and I could just see R, as you described him, in his red cord pants and his pretty curls, as well as the other children. Sister wrote a postscript on the envelope of the letters she sent that little me had started walking. And I felt as though I'd almost shared it right then. How I would have loved to have seen them all. Your description of little F and Susie and Sister's kids helped me share it with you. And when Frank wrote that he'd send me the movie films, well, I have a friend who has a projector, and I'll just invite everybody down and introduce them to my family. I hope you're all there in the roles, and I'll entertain you here while I get to see you all on the screen. Stars, no less. Mama, I spoke of the Christmas presents. I can readily imagine what you'll say when you see part of them. But just you remember this. My cob holder was busy while I worked, and I had to do what I could, the best I could. But I hope I may pass on to you any redoing that may need to be redone. Please see what you can do. If you need to make something over for me, will you? I'm sure sorry you haven't got your stove up yet, especially when you had so many to cook for. All at once, and all those conveniences you don't have. I think about that so often, and end up by hoping that your washing machine was in working condition when the children were all there. I sure got a kick from your writing about Daddy being KM's boy grandma, and I could see Daddy toss back his head and laugh. Felt sorry for the little girl you wrote about breaking her arm in the fall, and for once was glad that our greatest menace is a dog or 2 running around, though Louis loves a horse and shrieks gleefully when he sees a sorry old bag of bones pulling a milk wagon. Take your Chemtone back where you got it, and tell them you don't want to try mixing the paint yourself to get the color you want, and that you want it exchanged. They undoubtedly have the color you want now, and if they don't, tell them you want your money back. I'd be afraid to try to mix my own colors myself, and here's something else. If you could borrow a spray and spray it on, you'll find it will go on much nicer than if you brush it on. For heaven's sake, don't use one of those Chemtone rollers. They're worthless. And you'll need only 2 quarts of paint per room instead of a gallon per room. Cheaper to spray than to brush it on. I'm anxious to hear about your teeth. Write about them, won't you? I envy your wealth of meat. It is so expensive here we don't buy it. Maybe celebrate with a pound of hamburger once a week, but not much else. Milk is 20 cents a quart, and bread is 16 cents a loaf. You'd think I'd love some weight. But I blame it all on Florence. Daddy, could you send us some sulfa tablets for Lou and me to have on hand in case we start this germ on the rounds again? You needn't send aspirin or laxatives, for we have a fairly good supply on hand, but cough syrup, if it is well packed, and a small bottle of sulfa, if it is well packed, would be good to have on hand. I'd like to see your finished product now that the living room has been fixed up. Are you doing the roofing yourself? I hope you put cleats on your shoes and a safety belt so you won't fall. Try using a skyhook for added safety.
Now, we've seen a picture of the house that they have, so that's high up. So he's on the roof?
Chester is up on the roof. He likes to do things himself. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I love it. She doesn't try to, she just hey, be safe.
Yeah. No one's going to stop Chester from doing Chester things. if Laura hasn't figured it out how to do it in all these years that she's been married to him, his kids aren't going to convince him of anything otherwise. But then we get sort of some updates, because we've been hearing little things about items in Lacona. The fact that Laura's trying to get a new stove, this has come up in multiple letters, and it's not hooked up yet. You know, just the modern appliances and conveniences. One of the things that's important to remember about Lacona is the house in Lacona does not have a bathroom, an indoor bathroom. It's an outhouse. So for anybody that's newly listening and thinking, oh, well, you know, washing machines might be new, but, you know, there is no bathroom in the house. It's the outhouse. There's the water pump in the yard and things. So just the idea of hooking up a stove, right, or getting the washing machine going is a brand new thing. And Sweetie, who's out now in southeastern Pennsylvania, where the houses are built with more modern conveniences, at least for the 40s, it's not the case for her parents. So we get sort of these two different styles of living everyday life, which is interesting to see.
It is.
Yeah. But then moving forward with this giant letter.
I know, so big.
The typewriter's working again. Say, Florence, thanks for that letter. There's only one thing wrong with it. Or two things wrong with it. You didn't write it. And I didn't get it. You're worse than I am, and that is severe condemnation. You just ask my family. I hear you're thin and your kids are something out of a picture book. But why didn't you write it to me instead of having somebody else do it? I brag about my kid. You've got 2 and twice as much to brag about than I have, and I haven't ever rated a postal card since you got back from your trip. Besides, it is all your fault I'm so fat, and you should write and apologize to me. You were going to get me thin before I left home, and you haven't lost any weight for me. Now write and say you're sorry. I'll love to hear from you, and say, how about that picture of the clan you promised me? Get a move on, kid. Frank, I was glad to hear from you and your family, and I hope you can realize my appreciation of your letter and of the happenings with your family. Mama wrote that your kids are as sweet as can be. I know you kind of hate to brag on paper, but as long as it is in the family, do tell all. I love it. I wish I could have shared your visit and watched F perform as you say it. He was sure a sweet little thing. When I saw him long ago, he flattered me by insisting that I hold him. Well, he wanted to be held, and since Maida wasn't there right at the moment, he settled for me. And I was quite impressed by his pleasantness. Do you know, I have never had a picture of him to prove to my in-laws that I have another little Demaree nephew, and when I can't prove it, they think it is a tall story. I haven't had any new ones of Susie either since F was born, though I've asked several times. Maida also asked me if I'd like some more of the one she sent of Lou, Louis, and me, and I said I sure would. Didn't get those either, but you offered to send the rolls of movie film you took, and I'm just drooling to see them. I'm thrilled at just the prospect of seeing them, and I promise to take good care of them, if you'll send them. I'd be very pleased if you'd have a chance to send them to me by my birthday. Lou never remembers that I have a birthday. He can, of course, think up a plausible excuse, but I'm positive that it will never occur to him. So if you could get the rolls here, you can celebrate my birthday that way, and I'll share it with you via the movies. Great day. 25 years old. Ugh. As you guessed, I'm too Scotch that I'll send in the camera for repairs, or at least for refusal on the part of the Eastman Company. I didn't mean that it was due to any carelessness on Elizabeth's part, for it had been bulky with me before she even took it with her. I don't feel that she should have to pay for it, and from here on in, it will be a personal issue between Eastman and me. I hope you'll excuse me, but I laughed long and loud over Susie's fright of the chickens crowing in the night. I could sympathize with her and also with you. Louis hates the fire siren, for it is a low, very mournful sound, and in the stillness of the night when sound carries so well, it can sound weird. Likewise the boat whistles on the Delaware at night. They sound as though they are in the backyard, and often I think they are the cause of his nightmares. I don't know how he'd react to a crowing rooster, but if it is all the same to you, I'll let your experience do for us both. Maida, my sincerest apologies and appreciation for the blue wool suit you sent with Jean when she came. I'm so happy you bought size 6, for while it is yet a little big, I look forward to the time when he can wear it, and I think we'll break it out in its splendor for Easter come spring. It is very, very nice, and from the pricing I've done, I'm sure it was a very expensive suit, and more than I could afford, no matter how longingly I looked. Thank you again, and also thanks to Susie, and F, and Mama and Daddy, of course, for the blue striped shirt for his birthday. It was the only long-sleeved shirt he owned until Marguerite and Joe brought one from New York this last weekend, and likewise, it is one of the most valuable gifts he could have had, from my point of view, since he really had such a need for it. Perhaps you will remember the blue pants and jacket we made from Lou's old blues while I was home. Mama will remember. Well, I got it all finished up, and we put on the little shirt that Susie sent, and he looked like Fifth Avenue, New York, right here in Norwood. I sincerely appreciate it. Thanks again. Sister and Bill and all the Bolton children, I certainly did enjoy your letter. Don't be discouraged by such a late answer as this, for I've read and reread it many times, and now I'll try to answer it and do it justice. Louis still takes his bottle to bed, and besides getting wet, he refuses to stay covered. Gets cold, it is no wonder he holds it cold. How I'd love to see her with her babies in the sandpile and singing with M.A., and now that she's walking, I hear she's more friendly and talkative. Louis tries to say anything and everything, but as I've shown you in this letter, I must often listen very closely to decide what he's saying, and often I have to interpret for Lou. I'm a little disappointed that he isn't talking better, but he'll soon be doing better, I keep telling myself. He does make short sentences like, "Daddy, go work." I'd love to see the kids ride their bikes. Are there 2 bikes, or do they ride double on one? I see you say, them. So I guess there are 2. How is school? Jean writes that we should all be proud of Chris's scholastic record, and M.A. as well. Lou brought me home a picture of some children in school. I asked why. He said, "Can't you see why?" We decided that the little girl right in the middle of the picture looks something like our M.A., and I will send it to see if you think so too. I was pleased that he would see the likeness and then bring it home to see if I could also. Of course, we think our M.A. is prettier. But like this little girl, you see, she's right in the center of things. Frank wrote that Bill's work on the house was progressing admirably, and it has given him the yearning to do likewise, and how I wish I could see it. I've got my degree in sidewalk engineering, you know, and I'm really good. Be glad of the south windows. I'm sure they'll be extra nice and sunny on winter days. You are right. I sure do enjoy my sewing machine, and I'm thankful for it. I'm sorry to say we haven't gone to church. The Presbyterian church is quite a distance away when the car is gone on Sundays. Yes, Lou works. But now that Louis is a little older and does so enjoy children, I'd like to get him used to the idea, for I feel that Sunday school is a prelude to school, and I'm sure he would enjoy it. The Baptist church and the Methodist church charter city buses to come down here on Sunday mornings to gather up the children, since so many of the parents do not go to Sunday school. They have Sunday school and then Kinderkirk, a supervised playtime during church, and I'm going to start going again. Lou's mother doesn't go to church, but Elizabeth goes to Mount Zion Presbyterian in Derby. Did you hear where the Philadelphia Friends Society shared the Nobel Prize with the London Friends this year? All right.
Oh my.
A lot of updates here just to various parts of the family. And generally, she's just trying to request information. Now, Florence really failed at sending information.
That was funny.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Let me write this for you.
She's ornery. You know, she's got that. She has a, and with this, we know that she's doing well.
Yeah.
You know, and like, because she had a very, very bad time when she first moved out there. So she's doing, you know, she's able to crack jokes and do this kind of thing. But that was clever. Yeah.
And then at the very end there, you know, she's mentioned the pike a number of times throughout these letters. And for people unfamiliar with the area where she is in Delco, or Delaware County near Philadelphia. So she's mentioned the Delaware. She talked about the river. You could hear the boats and things. Where they are in Delaware County is so far south that it's very close to the water. You can actually... They're close enough where there's the oil refineries, there's all these sounds and things. You know, she mentioned the refineries, I think, in a previous episode about the smell. The pike is the Chester pike. And this had actually confused me until I decided to drive down to Norwood a few weeks ago. I hadn't talked about this yet in the podcast, but they were doing a history of Norwood lecture over at the Little Norwood Public Library. It was really, really great. Nice job to the historian in that one. But I went and I drove down to Love Lane to the sidewalk to see where they were. And there had been a previous episode for an eye doctor's appointment where she said she walked up to the pike. We keep getting the reference to the pike. And here I'm thinking, oh, she walked out to like the highway because it's like the pike and then picked up a train. The pike's actually in town. So she actually walked out of like a big development up to the Chester Pike, if people are wondering.
Road?
Which is a road that bisects the old section of town. And they still have a lot of like the 19th century, like the industrial buildings there. And then if you go past it, a little while further through the town, you get to the train station, which is actually where the little library is. So if anyone's ever visiting Norwood, that's all still there, and the trains run into Philadelphia. But she mentions the pike. So I wanted to call that out as a little geography of the area. This is in the southern portion. And she mentions Darby. We hear about the Darby Creek in other areas. This is a very watery area. We're down by the Delaware River. So when she mentions the Delaware, it's the river in addition to the county that she's in. So,
well, and you had mentioned too, like the industry.
Mm-hmm.
You got to wonder how much particulate pollution was out there.
Oof.
This probably was something that was affecting both Sweetie and Lewis.
For sure.
So like that's given like the industry that you talked about, it's kind of it makes a lot more sense why he's constantly sick.
Yeah. And we think about Sweetie herself. I mean, on that note, Lou grew up around this. He was in Philadelphia. Sweetie's used to the big open spaces out in Iowa. And now it's like pollution everywhere. Oil refineries. Yeah. Shock to the system. It's probably affecting them. We don't have room for books. I have the small set of encyclopedia in the china closet, with the few nice crystal pieces I have, and Lewis's books must be kept in his dresser. We were surely pleased with the child's garden of verses. He is largely interested in pictures, but listens carefully, especially if I exaggerate the meter of the poem. I apologize to you as well as to Maida for being so slow in acknowledging so nice a gift. Lewis thinks there is nothing finer than a book, and he shows his appreciation much better than I can express mine. I was interested in your story about the mailing of the package, and I'm sorrier still that I haven't put your mind at rest. It did get here, as you've guessed. You also asked me if I thought it was a risk. Well, let me answer it this way. Out there in Des Moines, no, I don't think it was too great a risk, because I think that people are much more honest out there in the smaller towns. However, if it were here in Philadelphia, mailing a package to you there, I would not risk having someone else mail it for me. I think the chances of it being stolen are greater here than there. Your little postscript on the envelope, Emmy walked alone last night, was almost like being there. And I remembered again the thrill when Lewis started off on his own. Now she'll keep you good and busy, as if she hadn't already. Write again soon, and again. Thank you for the book. Daddy, this may interest you a little. You know, Lou has inherited some of his mother's characteristics, one of which is her art, her gift for collecting. Good things, bad things, just collect and stow away somewhere because someday something might be worth something to somebody. Heaven only knows who, when, where, or how much. But I explained to Mama how the trash collections are made every so often, and all the junk is taken down to the dump where pickers buy loads and then salvage whatever is worthwhile. Well, Lou's scavenger characteristics, often roused, are being satisfied by frequent trips to the dump to see what he can find. He has brought me a cufflink that can be made into a pair of very nice earrings. He found a green pottery lamp base that he brought home, cleaned up, and it is almost the nicest lamp we own, with a dime store shade. Well, the last time he went down, he found some old pieces of tile. 6 of them were wildlife scenes, buffalo grazing, deer standing alert, etc., and 2 of them were in color, depicting the months May and August. We thought they were pretty, but just a day or 2 ago, we found that they are genuine Wedgwood made by Josiah Wedgwood at Stoke-on-Trent in England, and should be worth something. The animal scenes are made by Minton, also of England. We took them to an antique shop run by a man and his wife, just to see what they would offer us for them. They quickly put Lou on the defensive by asking what he wanted for them, and when we didn't know, I thought I caught a knowing glance pass between them, and they offered him $5 for the bunch of 8 that he found. My anger flared quickly, for I felt they knew the worth and were trying to rob us of something that might really be valuable. So I quickly spoke up and said, no, we knew that they were worth more than that at least, though we didn't actually know their value. Now I'm determined to hang on to them until we can do some research. He found a dirty old Seth Thomas clock with the glass broken and the dirt heavy on the works, but he brought it home, cleaned it up, got it to work, believe it or not, and when he gets the glass to put it together again, it is going to make a very attractive old clock. We don't know yet if that is worth anything either. He found a helmsman in storm hat, raincoat and high boots, with his hands on the wheel, and set into the wheel was a German-made barometer. The glass was broken on that also, cracked rather, and since no pieces were gone, the dirt couldn't get inside. I don't believe it works, but Lou thinks he can take it to the meteorology department there, and maybe they can tell him what he needs to know. The figure itself is some sort of paper composition, I think, and probably worthless aside from the novelty of it. He found a ring, a large dinner ring, with a greenstone and sterling silver mount, but of course, we're primarily interested in the tile and clock, and I thought you might be interested to hear about it. Jean, I always leave you till last, 'cause there's so much to say to you, and then I find the letter is so long and drawn out that I hurry through, and neglect you worst of all, and you're the one who always writes oftenest. I do enjoy hearing about your work. Hazel is always a source of interest as well as the rest of them. I'm sorry you didn't give Benton a little sharper jab in regards to the shot he was to have had. I would have said more than you did, but don't I always? Your accident case was interesting too, but neither would I have let that go by as you did. I was envious to hear you'd gone to see Gone with the Wind, and then found it was right here in Philadelphia, and now I want to see it badly, just to share it with you again. All right, and before we get into this last little section, there's two aspects here, and very quickly I think we can say, to the part with Jean, her favorite movie is Gone with the Wind, of all time, all her life, so not surprised that's mentioned here. But running back, Jamie, what did you think about A, Lou's scavenging his mother's habits and collecting, and then B, Sweetie's ability to read other people and know that they have something there?
Oh, this part, well, I like to make little notes whenever I'm reading. And so she says, Lou has inherited some of his mother's characteristics, one of which is her art, her gift for collecting. I was like, hoarding. That's called hoarding. That's not, but I feel with the two of them coming together, and he's got this ability to see things that are valuable. And he didn't know that those tiles were valuable, but he's like, he looked at them and something inside of him said that. And then her to kind of complement his abilities with her intuition, and she saw, and I know,
she's reading people.
That got me super excited. I was like, this is the best. The two of them together. I'll tell you what, they just make each other better.
They certainly do. And, it goes to say a lot about just intuition and skill and people caring about what they're doing. He finds this broken barometer with this interesting scene on it, on a wheel and on all the rest that she describes. And he says, oh, you know what? I can go to the meteorology department. Now, who just thinks, I'll just go over to the meteorology department? He's over on a base. He has access to these things. He's going to go ask questions. Not only they have to do research on these things. We're so spoiled in the modern day, we can just look it up online. He's going to go to a meteorology department to figure out this thing that he got in a junk pile that is a barometer. But he wants to understand resourcefulness and effort. Oh my goodness. This is going to be big in the future as we progress through the letters. But for people that knew them in real life, they're seeing the beginnings of what's going to happen here. And for people that are listening in and you're learning Sweetie's story for the first time, keep in the back of your mind, these are real good skills that they're showing little aspects of. This is going to play out in the future very, very big. But yeah, I just love it. I love it so much. Oh, and then we do have one more paragraph. Changing gears on the last paragraph of this letter, we get an update on someone. I'm always interested to hear about your dates, which brings to mind the current interest here. Elizabeth went to the dance where we went that night and met a guy. Then she went to California, and when she came home, he met her again at the dance, and from then on things have progressed to a point where he has asked her to go steady, and she's expecting a ring for Christmas, and secretly she's almost got herself married. He is 37, a widower, who was married for 11 years when his wife, who was 3 or 4 years older than he, died having her first baby. She met him in August, the last of August, and I have met him once. He is blonde, plumpish. He's 37 and too short. Yep, he is actually the same height or a little taller than she is, but I guess he seems shorter than he really is. He is very quiet, as she is, and almost shy. He owns his own home in Yaden, rented out since his wife's death, while he lives with his folks in the city. He is in the newspaper business and seems to have plenty of money. But aside from that, they don't know too much about him. He seemed very pleasant. He's a Democrat, and as you can well guess, Lou's mother has her married and with children already. As I said, I've only seen him once, so I don't know too much about him. But I think for Elizabeth, it would mean security and relief. And so I think he's a pretty good bet. I've gone on and on long enough, so now I'm going to stop and see how the letters roll back to me an answer. Love to you all, Sweetie, Lou, and Louis.
Whew, that was a long letter.
It was.
Not only was it really super long, but she was not interrupted by Louis waking up.
No.
He must have been either out somewhere, maybe Lou had him or doing something, but yeah, she was able to get a lot written down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love this tag at the end. She leaves the gossip. She's holding it. You know, it's interesting as I'm thinking, because every letter we see is the first draft. That's it. You know, this isn't a computer where she can correct things. And how she's mentioned before that she's had letters out on the table when she's writing because she's having to answer questions and things. She's structuring mentally in her head. She's holding on to this piece of gossip about Dit right until the very, very end. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, here's the cliffhanger. Elizabeth found a guy. Like, I think she's going to marry. She's expecting a ring for Christmas.
And this is when? November? This is the beginning of November?
Yeah, 47.
People just met each other and got married so much quicker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, this is an exciting time. Now, she also says, I think he's a pretty good bet. Remember what we just said about Sweetie being a very interesting judge of character and being able to read people to the husband and wife, the antique dealers. She is very much able to read people. And I'm not going to spoil things in the future, but I'm going to go with Sweetie at all times. She's saying it's a pretty good bet, and I'm going to believe her. I'll just leave it at that. But that's it for today's episode for the Love Sweetie podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Sweetie finally has her sewing machine. Mama's nice. Or Sheen, if you're going with Lewis's name for it. And all these updates as we finish out really the fall of 1947 and start to head into the holiday season of 1947. Already we're approaching 1948 and everything that goes with that. But thank you for joining us today. And we'll continue on next week with the Love Sweetie podcast.